My name is Dr. Martin Steinfeld. I'm a family physician here in Huntington Beach, located at 19582 Beach Boulevard, Huntington Beach, California. I was interested in biology to a large degree, and I found science very interesting, and then I guess I enjoyed taking care of people. My purpose is to help people navigate through life, basically, and hopefully make relieve pain and relieve suffering, and to some degree solve diagnostic problems. So we can move to a proper therapeutic approach and make them feel better. Well, it's a combination by physical examination. History provides much of the story, and it leads you in the right direction. And then today we have a lot of sophisticated tests from the laboratory to diagnostic imaging and the like. I think I help them by trying to understand them, basically. Uh, Many of the medical problems you deal with, you find out, are based on stress at home and interpersonal issues, marital issues, issues with children, upbringing, and the like. Well, I think it requires this to a large degree. You have to be somewhat scientifically oriented. You have to be very detail oriented, and I think you need a great deal of empathy. If you're not empathetic to pay people, then you're probably not going to succeed. That patients invariably sense whether you really care about them, or whether you do not. I went to Brooklyn College, which is part of CCNY in New York City, and I was a chemistry major and took a great deal of biology as well. But naturally, I had all the general courses in addition. You have to take biochemistry, organic chemistry, and basic biology, a certain amount of math, calculus, and the like. There are quite a few labs in biology and chemistry, especially in chemistry. It's called Drexel University now, right? Had a different name at that time. It's Hahnemann. It's 4 years of each, and then there's at least 1 year of internship, where I took a general medical internship, and then I decided to go into practice. Most people these days have to take a residency in family practice, but I didn't do that. Oh, I think it does, yeah. But in the old days, you could sort of learn on the job. I was an emergency room physician for like 8 years. That was a very good experience. I started actually a long time ago, in 1973 and a half. I graduated. I got out of my internship in the middle of 1973, started doing emergency medicine, and then started a private practice about 1980. Total of, it's got a good 40 years. It's going on 40 years. Well, the obstacles in college are, one, to get adequate grades so you can get into medical school, since it's fairly competitive. And strangely enough, I found medical school easier than college. Maybe it's because the courses I took in college at the school I took were actually difficult. Well, basically, I worked in the local emergency room here in Huntington Beach, and then I met several of the doctors, and one doctor encouraged me to start a private practice. So I did a combination practice for a while. I did half-time emergency room, and I would see people who didn't have a doctor. I referred them back to my office, which I shared with this other senior doctor who'd been in practice a long time. And that was a nice way to go, since you could still make a living, and yet You know, you didn't have a large overhead since you were sharing the office with this other gentleman. Well, actually, there's referrals from the emergency room, and also eventually the patients themselves, if they like you, they tend to
They come
send
back.
they come back, and they also send their friends and family, relatives, etc. Well, it's challenging, you know. There's always a new challenge, new problems arise every single day, and it's basically it's quite interesting. Well, trying to handle some of these difficult personalities, complicated issues where patients have symptoms which are not obvious, and you have to read a bit, get consultants involved, and eventually, hopefully, you come out with the right answer and the right approach to treatment thereafter. Well, they're a big help. I mean, really, without them, you couldn't function these days. They prepare the patient, they talk to the patient, they get the general complaints, they take the vital signs, they keep the charts in order. Right now, we've just adopted a EHR system, which is an electronic medical record, and that's rather difficult because it's a lot of inputting and slows down the number of patients you can actually see in one day. But eventually, it'll be helpful. Eventually, we'll be getting rid of the file charts. We'll probably end up scanning a lot of the data into the computer, and then we'll probably eventually, maybe in a year or so, get rid of the charts completely. Well, today it's a lot more difficult. It's a lot more complicated, and you really, I think today more than when I started, I think you really have to be committed and want to do this because when you consider the cost, okay, of going to medical school today versus when I went, it's just 10 times as much money, and there hasn't been that much inflation to justify that increase in price. So you're going to come out of school with a very large debt, both from college and medical school. It could be in the order of, I don't know, $400,000 or $500,000, and so it is difficult. You really need to want to do it. If you go into family practice for the money, you're probably making a mistake because many people would think that you don't get the return is not that great if you consider how expensive it is to get through medical school and college these days. And in addition, by the time you start earning money, you're going to be about 30 years old. I still think it's worth it. I do, but you have to sit down and make the calculation yourself.